And look, I don't know if the sub numbers thing is true or not, but I do know we could probably do with some extra help and everything right now. So, what do you say? Will you come back?
I am Thrall.
Is that a yes or a no?
Don't worry, Evitel. I fixed the game and solved the subscription problem.
Tally, what on earth are you doing?
Heritage armor!
Tally, please. I'm trying to convince Thrall to stop being emo and come back to the game.
Well, has he seen all the cool heritage armor? Because seriously, look at this stuff. I mean, I would definitely come back to the game for this, even though I don't even really like Blood Elves, because, you know, they're a bit icky and stuff. But look, this is amazing!
This isn't helping.
Keep your feet on the ground! See, look, it's not just Blood Elves, we've got all sorts. To be honest, I'm worried we'll end up with too many subs once all this stuff goes live. Or maybe you're more of a night elf man.
You went too far.
Sorry.
Knowledge is power.
Hello Internet, and welcome to another episode of the Weekly Reset, Taliesin and Evitel's Wondrous Wisdom Show. And this week, guys, seriously, this week is a prime example of why we've decided it's pretty much useless to even start writing these episodes before we wake up on a Saturday morning. Because it looked like this week was all sorted. It looked like we had everything we were going to cover in the show decided and down on paper. We were going to take our usual look at the new patch 8.1 PTRs to see what interesting new things we could find and trawl through all of the latest data mining to see what secrets we could uncover. We were going to talk about WoW's sub problem. We were going to discuss that 1.7 million number that's doing the rounds and try to get to the bottom of it, and wonder aloud if it might have anything to do with the new free trial that Blizz have announced. We were going to finish off with a bit of improvised mad bants on the sofa and let you know about the 2 separate giveaways that you can enter for sweet loots. And you know what? We are still going to do all of that with bells on. But before we even start on any of the planned stuff, the biggest news of the week by a country mile came right at the very close of play, and it's a doozy. A blue post from Lore about Azerite armor. Sorry, ignore that. That's just the special alarm we had fitted for whenever someone mentions you know what. Because after last week when I categorically said on this very show that we would not be discussing you know what again until 8.1, I meant it. All arguments had been made, all feedback given. All it does is make me stress, and to be honest, even if I said that you know what was as evil as Pol Pot and as annoying as Piers Morgan, I'd still get shit in the comments for being a shill blizz, brown nose blizzard shill fanboy shill man, because I have the audacity to still sometimes enjoy the old Mythic Plus. But honestly, it looks like we're going to have to scrap that policy after a mere 7 days, because detailed in this post for Tides of Vengeance is what amounts to an overhaul for the way that Azerite armor is obtained through Mythic Plus that appears on the face of it to go a long way towards giving the players what they actually asked for. Now of course, this isn't the first round of fixes that Blizzard have announced for Azerite in 8.1, but the extra ring, the scaling up of item level from the emissaries, the introduction of more interesting traits, those are all welcome, but always felt a lot like things that were going to happen anyway. Even if the system was all strawberries and blowjobs and people were getting tattoos because they loved it so much, this whole new system though feels very much more like it's built with the players' specific concerns and feedback in mind, and to cut a long story short, it's a currency system, sort of. So basically, in 8.1, Azerite armor does not drop from Mythic Plus runs, that's the same as before, but now it doesn't drop from your weekly Mythic cash either. Instead, you'll receive a currency, currently unnamed, which you can spend at a vendor for Azerite armor. The vendor will offer caches by slot for appropriate levels, which at the moment is 355, 370 and 385, and will award you a random dungeon Azerite armor piece for your chosen slot. Alternatively, for what's referred to as a premium price, you can purchase specific 385 pieces, which means if you have enough of the currency, currently unnamed, you can flat out buy your best in slot Azerite gear from the dungeon loot table. So yes, basically, Mythic Plus players just got a PvP vendor before PvP players did. Now, as you can imagine, I want to look at what all of this actually means in a bit more detail, because this is something that everyone obviously has an opinion on, and nowhere is that more true than on the forums, where the player base was quick to thank Blizzard for listening to their concerns, or to express their delight at a big step forward in fixing a broken system, and just generally share their excitement at the fact that here was good news that would generally change their gameplay experience for the better, and that's pretty much what happened. Seriously. Fish, yeah? Fish, yeah! Finally listened and delivered. Thank you, this is exactly what I wanted, Blizzard, you have ears! Yes! So you're killing raiding. Oh, there's always one, isn't there? And before anything else, I think that this is overall a really good change for all sorts of reasons, but this is actually a good point. What does this new system actually mean for players, and how is it going to impact not just Mythic Plus gearing, but also other aspects of the game too? Because whereas people mostly agree that the idea and principle behind the idea is what they want, the lack of exact numbers and other details means that there's still plenty of unanswered questions regarding all this. So first of all, some clarification. How long is it going to actually take to get gear from Mythic Plus in 8.1, and how much will you have to play to get it? Well, the exact drop rate of the unknown currency is currently unknown, but lore says that the idea is that every 2 to 3 weeks you'll be able to afford one of the random caches from the vendor. And there's two words here that will concern people: random and time. The caches you buy will still contain random Azerite pieces, which is one of the things that players hate about the current system, but it will at least be for the slot that you wanted, which goes a long way towards taking away that feeling of helplessness that currently comes with your weekly chest. More worrying though is the time element, because the idea of a currency conjures images of you working hard, earning your rewards and using it to buy your sweet loots which you have earned, and that's not quite how this new currency will work. And actually, I'm bored of calling it the unknown currency now, so for the sake of an easier listen for you guys, from now on I'm going to call them, oh I don't know, just off the top of my head, tally tokens. Now, obviously we don't know that they actually will end up being called tally tokens. I'm not saying they will be, I'm just putting it out there, and actually I have to admit, now I say it out loud, it's a pretty good name to be honest. I think they could do a lot worse. Anyway, it sounds like the vast majority of tally tokens that you'll be able to get in a week will come from your Mythic weekly chest, and the current thinking is that plus 10 will award around 3 times as many tally tokens as a plus 7, and maybe it will continue scaling after plus 10, but there's no clarification yet either way. On top of that, you can also scrap or disenchant unwanted Azerite armor for extra tally tokens, and that's it. A big chunk every week in your chest, depending on your highest completed key and whatever else you manage to almost literally scavenge. We don't know if there's a weekly cap on tally tokens, but it feels like there doesn't need to be, because there's essentially a soft cap in place already, because this is not something you can really farm in the way a lot of us mean when we say farm. And if that rough time frame of being able to afford a random cache every 2 to 3 weeks is accurate, then the actual rate at which you acquire new Azerite pieces from Mythic Plus hasn't really increased all that much. No, the real improvement here is that you can choose which slot you get, and you can guarantee when you get it, and that's going to feel a lot better to players. The actual target pieces though, the 385 gear where you can specifically choose which piece you want, well, we don't know yet how long that's going to take to earn. Lore calls it a long-term goal, so my guess is that for a top player knocking out a plus 10 or more every week, it'll be a month or more. Again, Blizz still don't want Mythic Plus to be the way you get all of your Azerite armor. We should all know that by now. But the fact that you can specifically pick out and buy your best in slot Azerite piece from a PvE vendor, that's pretty big, even if you can realistically only do it 2 or 3 times a tier. It means that you always 100% will get your BIS if you want it, and that you'll never get stuck with that one slot that you just can't seem to catch a good drop dragging you down. Essentially, it makes those unlucky worst case scenarios that we've been hearing so much anecdotal evidence of impossible, and that's good. So the obvious problems and worries that people have: will it kill raiding? Well, no. If Blizzard continue to include things like the origination array on raid armor, then raiders are always going to need that raid gear specifically. But you know, please make it a lot more instinctive and easier to understand than the origination array stuff next time, okay, Blizz? Because that should have been really cool, but got totally lost in all the noise and confusion. Plus, raiders can, in theory, run just 1 plus 10 a week and be just as up to date with tally tokens as someone who grinds out 100 of them. So as now, the absolute best way to get your Azerite stuff is to do both. Another worry: surely people will just chain grind Mythic 0 dungeons 24/7 to get useless Azerite pieces that they can scrap for tally tokens. Well, probably not. Don't forget that you can only loot each Mythic 0 dungeon once a week, so that's 10 maximum before it becomes useless. And even then, I get the feeling that scrapping Azerite gear, especially the lowest level epics like you get in Mythic 0, is going to be a really pathetic way of getting tally tokens. Like, yeah, you can get your 5 fruit and veg a day by eating peas 1 at a time, but it's not really realistic, you know? But it probably will encourage people to do those emissaries for higher level stuff that will give more tokens, and that's probably a good thing, right? Another worry, will people stop trading unwanted Azerite armor in groups? We've only just made this possible. Does the need to scrap this stuff now mean that everyone will be super selfish with it? Well, see above. I get the feeling people won't really care about scrapping too much, but also, so what if that does happen? It's your loot, do what you want with it, I don't care. Another worry, does this mean that you should be stockpiling your unwanted Azerite gear ready for the big disenchant in 8.1 for big fat tally token fun times? The official word is no. Only gear looted after Tides of Vengeance goes live will award currency on scrapping. Now, of course, you may want to hang on to it anyway on the off chance that there's some magical 30 minutes on the morning of the patch where it's bugged and you get all of the tally tokens anyway, but that's on you. We can only report on what's supposed to happen. Another worry, what about PvPers? Well, lore says that they are looking into more choice for them too, so maybe we will be getting the PvP vendor we all want so bad as well, who knows? But generally, the community seems relatively happy, and I guess I am too. These aren't the changes I would have implemented. I still think that having traits that change automatically with your spec would be an easier, better fix than any of this, but this feels like it's going to at least help cancel out the worst parts of the Azerite system and give players more purpose in their gearing, which is good. Now, the other half of that, of course, is whether Blizz fulfill their promise of better, more interesting Azerite traits in 8.1, and the early signs are that you know what, they actually might be doing just that. So for the first time in a while, there's a feeling of cautious celebration in the community when it comes to Azerite armor, and it's okay to enjoy that. The parts of the player base who think the change happened because they spent the last 2 months being angry feel like it's them that affected the change. The players who gave feedback in a more traditional sense feel like it was them that did it. And look, I'm not saying it was one or the other, but speaking as someone who probably receives more feedback from the public than your average person, I know which suggestions I pay more attention to. It's unlikely that Blizzard are going to run with this to the conclusion that many say they'd like to see, that of a tally token WoW utopia where all gear is achievable by everyone as long as they have the time and inclination to grind out the appropriate currency for it. Wherever this goes next, we will keep you updated, especially when those specifics on numbers start coming through. Azerite armor, everyone. We went a whole 7 days without discussing it. Let's see if we can do better next time.
Okay, and here we are. We made it all the way to where the episode was supposed to start, with 8.1 PTR and data mining fun. There's nothing majorly spoilery in this week's haul, but we're going to put the orange spoiler alert up while we talk armor sets, weapons, and other little knickknacks. So, first of all, do you remember that excellent bow made out of a dinosaur skull we showed you last week? Did you think, hey, that's great, although what I'd really like is the skull of a much bigger dinosaur to wear on my shoulders? Well, buckle up, son, because you're in for a treat with the Battle for Dazar Alor plate set. I love all the sets from this raid, and the plate is no different. They're just all so bony and glowy and Bwonsamdi-like, and they finally solved the mystery of how the dinosaurs went extinct. It was us. We did it for the sweet mogs. No regrets, don't at me. And you remember how, as much as I love all the raid armor we've seen in 8.1, the Darkshore Warfront transmogs have left me a little nonplussed? Well, that's before I set eyes on the Meccano Plague Doctor glory of the Horde cloth set, because man, this is glorious. Even if those glowing vials hanging off the shoulders and belt make you look like one of those girls that walks around bars in Ibiza trying to sell you shots, if that girl was a Meccano Plague Doctor, obviously. It's spiky and nasty and even a bit Dark Soulsy, which is ironic because Impossible to Lose Warfronts are pretty much as opposite from a Dark Souls game as it's possible to get. Which brings us to the Blood Elf Heritage armor, which is exciting for all sorts of reasons. I very much like the robe or tunic choice you have as a player. That's neat, and yes, obviously you're always going to go tunic because honestly, why would you waste those strong, shapely Blood Elf calves by hiding them away under a dress? I really like the gloves here, which have that excellent Sylvanas armored claw thing going on, just gold instead of grey. But best of all, I really like the fact that maybe for the first time in history, it looks like female blood elves might be allowed to have normal-sized shoulder pads. Usually female blood elf shoulders get magically shrunk down to child size before they're allowed to wear them. That Triceratops head we saw from the raid set earlier probably looks like the skull of a small kitten when a blood elf female equips it, but these actually look pretty beefy. And blood elf females deserve a beefy shoulder pad or two, so I'm happy for them. And what better way to show off your shiny new armors than on a shiny new mount? It seems like the Darkshore Warfront will have a few to collect. The only one we've got a model for so far is the Calderay Night Stalker, if this even is the correct model for it, but it's chunky and satisfying and got weird red padding like Rimmer in Season 6, and basically it's awesome. So if Blackpaw, Ashenvale Chimera, Frightened Kodo, Sandy and Umber Nightsaber are of the same sort of quality, then there's at least some reason to be grinding that second Warfront. Likewise, PvP, where it seems it's finally time for the long-awaited Frog mount. Almost certainly not as good as the Hippo mount, obviously, but then what is? 38% of the way to that Hippo mount, by the way. You know a mount is good when Tally is desperately trying to pull together arena teams to get it. Which brings us to the end of this shorter than usual spoiler section and into a bit of a mystery. A mystery that involves that age-old favorite subject of WoW intrigue. Sub numbers. Since Blizzard chose to stop sharing subscription numbers towards the end of Warlords of Draenor, a decision that, let's be honest, was probably not because they were embarrassingly high, is it? Mike Morhaime wasn't sitting there in Blizz HQ going,
"What a year it's been! Look at all these subs, it's more than we can count. We better start keeping them a secret, they're gonna make all our other games look bad."
How many people are actually paying to play this game has been a constant source of speculation, which is why when the Weak Aura's Twitter account, which is how I think most of us first saw this story, puts out a post saying, Blizzard Entertainment launched a new API, develop.battle.net recently, and it was leaking player subscriptions and end dates. You could iterate over all the players and calculate active subs. At the start of BFA, we had 3.2 million subs, now at 1.7 million, which is, wow. I mean, that number is a shock, if it's true, frankly. The last we had official confirmation, which was when Warlords was at its most hated, the subs were somewhere in the 5 millions, which was widely seen to be awful. I think the assumption is that numbers spiked massively in Legion and largely stayed pretty good. I heard 11 million, and even though I don't believe it would be that high, I believe it was likely more than 5 million, probably throughout the entire expansion. And if we're down to 1.7 million now, well, that's tricky to explain away, right? It means Blizz is only making $25,483,000 a month from subs, which means we're probably gonna have to delete, I don't know, dwarves to cut costs and balance the books. So the question on all dwarf lips right now is it true? And that's the thing, there's actually zero evidence to prove it's true, and plenty of evidence against. Although Weak Auras shared the numbers, it wasn't them that ran the test, and the original tweet they were reporting on has since been deleted. Blizzard subsequently contacted Stanzilla, who made the Weak Auras tweet, and flat out just told him the info was false, and, well, we've heard similar from a couple of other sources too. So at the moment, we've got Blizzard against some words that were written on the internet with no proof or reference, which no longer exist. And it says a lot for many players' feelings towards Blizz right now, that they're perfectly happy to believe some words on the internet over them, which is sad in a way, but pretty much human nature. And let's be honest, BFA's numbers probably have taken a bit of a hit in the last few weeks. So overwhelming has been the volume and intensity of the unhappy voices. Do I think the subs are as low as 1.7 million? No, absolutely not. There's just no evidence to support that. Do I believe that there are currently less people paying to play this game than Blizzard would like, or that maybe they'd predicted? That I can believe, sadly. But the great thing about WoW is, however many people are playing it and having fun at any one time, there are literally millions more who want to find it fun, who want it to be great, and who want to have an excuse to start playing again. And the good news is, you don't need to worry because Halinka is back on the team. The ex-head of PvP is now lead combat designer for the whole game, and surely he and his abs will make everyone happy, right?
Yes, because there was another story closely linked to this one this week regarding another promotional offer for Battle for Azeroth, flagging select accounts with what WoWhead called a 3-day test trial for the expansion, but what in reality wasn't even that. The test was available for 3 days, sure, but if you were one of the chosen for this offer, you could access the expansion that you haven't bought, but not any of your existing characters. So you could only get as far as a max level trial would take you. So the Siege of Lordaeron and the opening scenario for your faction basically, all of which is pretty fun, fair play. I can see why Blizzard might think showing players who hadn't bought the expansion might be drawn in by that. And that was the general feeling on the forums too. amongst those who cared anyway, because this offer wasn't even a blip on the radar for the 3.5 million players who bought BFA on the first day. What do they care if Blizz is trying to show off their game to people that let their subs lapse maybe years ago? After all, the more the merrier, and that no, it was a shit show, obviously. Desperation, this is pathetic. This makes me feel sick to my stomach. This isn't Blizzard. This just isn't Blizzard. This reeks of corporate money-grubbing greed. Blizzard isn't Blizzard anymore. I can taste Blizzard's desperation. Enjoy the steaming pile of shit that WoW has become, all you masochists. I'm sure Taliesin will make a video explaining and assuring us that this is all a huge happy coincidence. Oh, hi, angry internet man. Taliesin here with another video, and you'll be very pleased to hear that actually, I don't think this is a coincidence at all. Because for the sake of argument, I'm going to agree with you, and I will say, sure, WoW's subs are 1.7 million right now. Why not? The evidence all points to the contrary, but I'll go with 1.7 million. Bad times, death of WoW. It was good run, GG. So yeah, I don't think this offer is a happy coincidence, but that's not why. It's because I know how to use Google. So when I saw this, yeah, I did think, wow, those sub rumors must be true then, because an offer like that, 2 months after the expansion releases, a bit suspicious, definitely. But then I thought, before I form an opinion on what this means and spread it all over the internet, I should probably just do the bare minimum of research and just check if Blizzard have run any other offers like this before. And it took me about 5 seconds to check, and yeah, it turns out they have, yeah. There was a free 10-day trial for Warlords of Draenor a month after it released, and for Mists of Pandaria 6 weeks after it released. There was a free trial for Cataclysm just 10 days after release, and a free trial for Wrath of the Lich King a month after release. Oh, and by the way, this free trial is how I started playing, so thank goodness that they were desperate enough to let me play for free because their game was dying, because I've had a good 10 years entertainment out of this so far. They did the same with Burning Crusade 2, but I think I've made my point. Taking these screenshots actually took me longer than the Google search to find this information out. It's really that easy. And if I was in the mood for arguing, which I'm not, obviously, because like I say, I believe the 1.7 million subs things, this is the end times, but if I were, I would point out that if you think a 3-day free trial 2 months after release is a sure sign of desperation or a money grab, then by the same logic, Blizzard have been even more desperate and money grabbing for every other expansion they've ever released except Legion. And if you think that an offer like this isn't Blizzard, this just isn't Blizzard, well, it kind of really is, and always has been, you know? Are you still subbed?
Yes.
Do you still have sub?
As far as I know, yes, I'm
still
subbed.
paying? Still
Yes.
paying for it? You're not like pirating it or anything like that? It's like, I'm just worried because apparently no one is playing this game.
Yeah. Well.
And like, now, anecdotally, I know this is like, it means absolutely nothing at all, but our guild is kicking.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's like as busy as I've ever seen it. Our Patreon community, our online community is always filled with like hundreds and hundreds of people.
Yeah.
So I mean,
And that's
I don't
all
know.
speculative, right?
It's,
like
it's not even speculative. It's literally made up.
Yeah.
And that's not to defend it, because I'm sure subs are pretty low right now comparatively. But even if they were, as long as my guild is there, as long as, listen,
as long as I can still play the game.
as long as I get curve, people have got legitimate grievances, and that's absolutely fine. I just kind of resent a little bit when I feel like I have to defend the fact that I'm having a good time.
Yeah.
Like, because people take it as a personal attack. If you say you're like doing threes, I'm doing guild, I'm doing mythic pluses, I enjoy the odd warfront every now and then on my alts and stuff. Like, people take that as like a personal attack, and they're like, not only are you wrong, but I'm offended how wrong you are, and I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. And it's like, dude, do your thing, I'll do mine, it's cool.
Just let people enjoy the things they enjoy. This
Honestly,
is a good like life lesson.
Yeah. Or unless they enjoy like killing puppies.
Exactly.
Or like, you know, don't let people kill puppies. It's terrible.
No.
Unless you have a culture that eats puppies. In which case you're going to have to kill them. You can't eat a live puppy, Evitel.
Well, it's
what
all
kind of a
relative,
monster
isn't it?
are you?
This is really delving into
You eat
some
live
area of like
puppies.
philosophy and
You're-
ethics. I'm
you're
not ready to go
You
down.
absolutely disgust me with your puppy-eating ways. I think either way, Warcraft could do with a good BlizzCon right now. And another thing that's awesome about BlizzCon, of course, is that we're going to be there.
Yeah.
Live in the flesh, just like last year. We'll be at the Con Before the Storm on Thursday.
Yep.
At what time are we at Con Before the Storm?
So we're at Con Before the Storm at 6 to 7. And
Awesome.
then we're going to be at the WoWhead party at 7:30.
Brilliant. I don't know who's going to be at the WoWhead party at the same time as us, but I do know that at Con Before the Storm, Terran Gregory's going to be there.
Yeah.
Diva Marie's going to be there.
Yeah.
Christy Golden is going to be there. Fabelina is going to be there.
Hazelnutty Games.
Hazelnutty Games is going to be there. Sko and Jari.
Yep.
They're all going to be basically
all in our time slot.
Look,
so
I'm not saying all of the coolest kids are at 6:30. I'm not saying like they put all the best people first.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that because obviously we're there and that kind of scuppers that a little.
Mm.
Oh no, Blizzard Watch people will be there. Mitch and stuff from Blizzard Watch.
So we totally understand if you won't actually get to see us during that time slot because there's so many other people in
we won't
this
be offended.
buffet
Listen, man, if you want to talk to Christy Golden
creators.
and Terran Gregory, frankly, so do we. So we won't be offended if no one comes to see us. But maybe we'll catch a glimpse of you there. Maybe we'll find you at the WoWhead party. And just generally, I think Blizzard's going to be good fun. But we can give you things through the two giveaways that we're doing right now.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us about those?
So
please?
we have one going on right now for the Warbringers art made in collaboration with artists at Artitude.
Okay, so these are amazing.
They're super cool.
Hang on.
Oh. They're in here.
This is not the body of our fallen foe. This is 9 poster tubes, each containing 3 posters.
Yeah.
3 tubes for each artist, because there are 3 different artists. And like, we haven't even opened these yet.
No.
We probably should to have a look at them.
We probably should.
Should we?
They're maybe not now.
Yeah, maybe not.
No.
No, hang on, I want to.
So if you do want to get your hands on some of these posters, please check out our Twitter thread. The competition is on until today, Sunday the 21st, end of the day. And comment by declaring your allegiance to your favorite queen.
So
Ashara,
if you're
Sylvanas, or Jaina.
Because that's who the posters are about.
Yes.
So if you're one of the notification crew, you've still got time to enter this competition.
Yes.
And look at this
cool
shit!
they are.
Look how
They're
cool
really
these
brilliant.
are! And
They're
I'm not being
super
funny,
cool.
Evitel. They smell really good as well. So I mean,
You don't know what they smell like, but you can imagine. What
look
they
at
smell
these.
like.
These are awesome. I might keep this one.
Yeah. No.
Shh. Kidding me? Look at that. That's amazing.
That's a really good one.
How cool would that look behind us? Here?
I know. I love these actually.
That'd be so good.
They're really long.
Oh wow, these are freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Now you might not get these ones if you win, because they come in different designs and stuff.
So
and that's
we have
gonna be
the
random.
3 different
Sorry,
artists.
dudes.
Yeah.
But that's so cool.
But they're all super cool. So check that out. Competition number 2 that's going on is for those little figurines we showed you before
Yes!
that we have, which they're on the
They're
other
all
side of
way
the room,
over
so
there.
we're
I
not
can't
gonna
get them.
for you.
I've already got enough to clean up,
There's
Evitel.
too much like camera
There's
equipment
too much
here.
to clean
Too many
up.
potential things to fall over and knock over and break. So those little figurines, 3D printed custom characters, we are giving away 4 of those.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is pretty
Because
amazing.
that stuff is
actually.
expensive.
I know.
And you can't even really order them from anywhere these days.
You
either.
can't. You
Like,
can't.
Where are we getting these from?
So, to enter that competition, you have until the 26th, at the end of the day, on October 26th.
British summertime.
British summertime, or whatever time zone we are in London.
Did you get all that? Doesn't matter, because we'll link both of those tweets that you need to go to enter the competitions down below. And we're also going to link, obviously, all of the WoWhead articles that we referenced in this episode. So you can go and read about all of the things without our voices.
Yeah.
Or you can read them in your voices if you want. That's
nice.
fine too.
That's okay.
But thank you, WoWhead, for all that awesome data mining and use of the models and stuff. As usual, thank you for joining us today. If you like this video, don't thank us. Thank our patrons who give their actual real life money to make these videos happen. And they really, really do, guys. Honestly, without you, these videos would not be happening, really.
Yep.
To be honest. Yeah. If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it.
And remember, my name is Fabelina. I wish it was.
How will I know? How will we recognise Fabelina? Is she like an actual cartoon drawing?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
Well,
she is her character.
it should be quite easy to recognise them, won't she? From me, Taliesin.
And me, Evitel.
Until next time, cheerio.